than I know who said, is, life is what happens when you are busy making plans. Why does that make sense? Because the time to make plans comes from the same time you have to live. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there is this beautiful idea called deliberation scheduling. You get to decide how much time you will think and how much time you will do. And that's an extra decision process on top of the object level decision process. For any really hard Markov decision process, the policy would be so hard that figuring out what to do in every possible state you could find yourself in optimally before starting means you would actually not start. So I'll say this because, in fact, I just sent this mail to a couple of friends of mine. So last week when I was gone, I was basically in Los Angeles, most of the night sleeping in a hospital room because my dad had an open heart surgery. Now, it turns out that my sister is a pediatrician. She actually understands, she's the real doctor. I have a doctorate, but she actually understands what happens when you cut up people open. If I was there, my optimal policy would be to see what happens. That would be my optimal policy, okay? Because she was there, she knew what all crazy things can happen. Now, because she knew it, I felt compelled to make contingency plans. After a while, my head was exploding. So I went to sleep. Do you understand what I'm saying? Real life can have all sorts of crazy contingencies. If you have to figure out what would I do when that happens, then you will not do anything. Or if your friend of you says, okay, so you want to drive to the office, but what happens? Your left tire, deflates, and as you are, taking care of this, a jeep, side ends you, and then as you are lying there in your pool of blood, a policeman walks over you, all this stuff. What's you to do? Why didn't you think about doing, what's your action for that? Because I have a life. Computing the optimal policy would have basically taken my lifetime. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's the same reason why chess can be solved. It's a finite game. There is an optimal policy for chess. But computationally, computing the optimal policy is basically infeasible. Okay? So this also makes you realize that sometimes knowing less is better. Because if you don't know, then you don't have to plan. But sometimes, even though you know the model, you decide not to plan because that indeed actually winds up being the optimal thing, because the time taken to plan would be cost more than the total time you have. But when we are talking about MDPs right now, we are assuming time is no problem. We'll figure out optimal, exact policies and exact value functions. And then we'll give up and talk about how to do approximations. So the replanning that I made fun of before, we live by replanning. And we do that because we can't compute optimal plans completely. Okay? And again, the other thing that if I haven't said this in the class already, my favorite saying about the difference between computer scientists and programmers is computer scientists know what is the optimal thing to do and how hard it is, and they say to heck with it, we'll do the easy thing. Programmers don't know, don't care. Right? So that's the difference. You know what's the optimal thing to do, so that sometimes it's not actually, if it's a 3x3 MDP, and you say, I don't want to deal with the whole optimal policy business, you're being stupid. If it is a billion by billion MDP, and you're saying, let me build the optimal policy, then you will be again stupid, because you won't have time to get that. Okay. It's looking more interesting. Given an MDP, okay, I have to start this. Combinatorics. Did you get what I just said? There are basically, instead of talking about the number of states, I told you each state is described in terms of P, Boolean variables. That tells you how many states are there. And then I also told you for each state there are a number of actions. And I am looking at a finite horizon MDP of horizon H. So I'm talking about how many policies are there. In A star search, you would ask how many paths are there, how many distinct paths are there in the graph. Here you're asking how many policies are there. And these are all happy numbers, right? There is an exponent, evil looking exponent. Okay, let's see, maybe let's see it. 47, 49, 50. I'm going forward. There are more people than 56. Okay, I'm going forward. Seriously. People don't believe me. Okay. Okay, let's see. What you have. Wow. Okay. So clearly, it's, if you remember, it's A actions per state. There are S number of states, then it's A times A times A times A power S policies per horizon. And so the whole thing multiplied by itself H times, okay, is the number of policies. So normally the number of policies is A power S times H. A power S times H. Okay, now S here is 2 power P. Right? So that's the number of policies for an MDP for H horizon, and number of actions is A and number of Boolean fluids to describe the state is P. So 2 power P times, so A times 2 power P times H. Okay, A times A power 2 power P times H.
So
okay, yes.
If P is not Boolean, then it is A.
What?
If P is not Boolean, then it's just A.
No, if P is, no. If P is KRE, that means P is a state variable that can take K different values, then it will be A power K power P times H.
You have the two there because you have the Boolean variables.
Okay? And the only time you will get just no, if you just get no power here, is in fact there is each state is its own thing. So basically states don't have state variables. Each state is unique.
There are P states.
Yeah, if you just have P states instead of P variables. Okay? Now, you guys might be thinking this is the end of the world, right? How many value functions are there? I didn't ask you this question, but you can answer. I mean, I didn't have it in this thing, but how many value functions? You talked about value functions, remember? How many value functions are there for an MDP which has, for the same setup, for the same assumptions? You're supposed to remember what value function is. Because the next question is about value function. So remember, you computed value functions by backup and used that to compute the policy.
Twice the number of every state would have right now 2 value functions on the basis of computing.
No. A value function is just a real number for each state. How many different ways can you give real numbers to states? Infinite number. So the number of potential value functions are infinite. Number of potential policies are only finite. So, there is this story, right, that how do you make a really sad thing look less sad? You put even bigger sad thing next to it. All of a sudden it looks better. So, you just got hit by a truck and then at least you say, my God, at least I didn't fall off the plane. Right, that's better. Okay, so number of policies is exponential, but number of value functions is infinite. Now here is a question. Remember how you computed the optimal policy in finite horizon MDP? Remember? You computed the value function first and then converted it into a policy. Crazy nonsense. How can you find the optimal policy among these number of policies, which at least is a finite number, by searching in the space of value functions which are infinitely large. There are infinite number of value functions. That is an interesting thing that you should think about. It turns out that's the right way to go about things. In fact, it turns out that while the number of potential value functions are infinite, really you can compute the optimal value functions without searching into each one of the value functions saying, are you optimal, are you optimal? Because our man Bellman told us how to do that. By basically saying V0 is just R of S, V1 is expected backup of V0, V2 is expected backup of V1. Remember that picture that I drew? So it doesn't really matter how many possible value functions are there if you just happen to know how to get to the optimal one faster. But it is cute to realize that it's not just brute force search. If you were doing brute force search, it's a dumb idea to search in the space of value functions when you're trying to find the best policy, because this is at least finite. Another question. I said a policy is a mapping from state to action. I can talk about an idea called mixed policies. A mixed policy. So basically, the point that I'm trying to say is MDP is all about stochasticity, right? Actions have probabilistic outcomes. How come policies don't have any probabilities? How come policies tell you, if you are in this state, do this action? Why don't they tell you, if you are in this state with 0.7 probability, do A, 0.3 probability, do B? Why don't they do that? Okay, if you allow that, then you have what is called mixed policies. Okay, clearly the set of mixed policies subsumes the set of direct policies, non-mixed, the simple policies. Right? Why don't we search in the space of mixed policies? Are we losing anything by not searching in the space of mixed policies? For that, it turns out that there is a theorem that shows that if there is an MDP with an optimal policy at all, it will have an optimal non-mixed policy. So by just searching in the space of non-mixed policies, you don't lose anything. Now, the question is, if you were forced to search in the space of mixed policies, what would have happened to you this time? Does anybody by any possible chance have one of the old Mac power things?
You can try mine.
Okay.
I don't know if it's right.
So, the question is, why don't we, no, that won't work. The one I have is the one which has a different MAC connector, if anybody has it.
This the main one?
What?
This the main one?
Yeah, the old one.
This
that's the
one
old
work?
one. Yes, thank you. So you get to yell at this guy because his math doesn't stop. It's not my mistake. I was ready to give up. But, okay. So, yeah, so my question is, how many mixed policies are there? For a given policy, if I give you one single, basically there are infinite number of mixed policies. I hope you understand that. Do you see that? Okay.
There's an outlet behind the desk over there.
I understand, that's fine. It does reach. I have a different issue, but that's fine to deal with. Good. Okay. This will be interesting. Okay. That's fine. Okay, so I'll bring this up, but the number of mixed policies are infinite in number. And what I just pointed out is, even if you don't search this infinite set, you don't lose any quality. Now, since I brought up this issue of mixed policies, is there any situation where you might need to think about mixed policies?
So why do we even bring up mixed policies? Because you have a preferred action in each state to get security, assuming that you do have.
Good, you're great because you're setting me up for my joke, which is, so, it's not against you. It's basically the next point, which is, so there is a cartoon I remember seeing on Simpsons where, Bart and Lisa have to make a decision, okay, who gets to sleep on the cushy bed or something. And then Bart says, let's play rock, paper, scissors. And then Lisa agrees. And then there are two bubble-shaped things on both their heads. And Bart is saying, yay, we're going to play rock, paper, scissors. And Lisa is saying, yay, we're going to play rock, paper, scissors. And Bart always picks rocks first. Do you understand what I'm saying? Rock, first of all, do people not do people know what is rock, paper, scissors? Right? Okay. So to play the game, as dull and dumb that game is, if you happen to tell people beforehand that I always pick rock, then you may as well not play the game. The only way of actually playing the game and having some fun is randomize your strategy. Bart is a bozo. Bart always goes, rock is big, I'm going to always pick rock. And Lisa, like the point you are making, Lisa has seen Bart enough times and realized, first of all, he's bozo, and second of all, he always picks rock. And since she knows he picks rock, she will always win this game. So in some cases, the optimal way of playing a game involves actually using mixed strategies. Well, if you don't like that, think of Venus Williams or Serena Williams playing tennis. If they say, I'm always going to stand in this part of the court, basically other people can exploit it. They have to randomize the strategy. You should never let the opponent know. There should be some randomization that is involved. So in fact, mixed policies are relevant when you think of generalization of MDPs where you are playing against an opponent who models you. MDP is a game against nature. Nature cares nothing about you. Doesn't want to do anything bad to you, nothing good to you. It just is. Okay? So mixed policies, if you take a game theory class, you will talk about mixed strategies. And without thinking of mixed strategies, you won't get optimal. So for example, optimal way of playing rock, paper, scissors is like with 0.333 probability, pick one of them. That's the optimal policy. See, I told you tic-tac-toe, I told you rock, paper, scissors, and the amount of tuition dollars you're getting back. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go to the next one. Okay, and I have to play this game because when I have the power there, I cannot use the. Look at this, I'm going to write down the answers, then I put the receiver and record your solution. Because it turns out that I cannot connect the receiver because of the physical limitation. So, compared to the state search, the value function in MDP is similar to A, the solution, B, the heuristic, C, the actions, D, the child generator. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is, I think I can do this. Let's see. I'm actually going to remove that. Just pick A, B, C, D are there. This will work.
Oh, okay, we can see this screen.
Okay? Did you pick? Oh, I think.
So the
No,
channel
that's
is
not.
not on. So the channel is not on at your end.
Oh, okay. Oh, then I have to do this. I'm sorry, I just wound up not picking that one. Okay, let's see this. 1%. Isn't that fun? Okay. First, I'm sorry, let's come. Okay, try it quickly. Is this thing on?
Solid.
What happened? Oh, because when I removed it, it must have gone back to Okay, anyway, let's play it this way. I think these next two questions, what, it's working? Okay,
Yeah, it's
good.
working.
Thanks. For whatever reason it's working. 48. So don't please run out the hour. Okay. I'm going to stop. This is actually an interesting question. Let's see what people say. Wow, I'm impressed. Majority turns out to be right this time. Not always the case, but in this case it is. So remember we talked about reward versus value function. You know, in some sense, reward is input, value is computed. And if you realize that value function is like heuristic, then you are way ahead of the game in terms of understanding MDPs. In fact, the optimal value function is pretty much like the perfect heuristic. How do I know this? If I were to play with a deterministic MDP, where all the actions are deterministic, and I only think in terms of costs, the rewards are just costs, then a perfect heuristic will just tell me, that the optimal value function will tell me the shortest path from any of the states to the goal state. Do you see that? So value function is really heuristic. So if you are thinking, how come A square gets by without doing value functions? It is doing value functions. The heuristic function is its approximation to value function. And that analogy is an extremely useful analogy to have in your mind. Value function means heuristic. Okay? Let's try, I guess, the last question. I'm going to again put this. And hope for the best. Okay, let's see if people are able to. Is it working?
No.
Maybe we can make Daniel come and do this shaman thing again. I think it should work. Yeah, let's see. Well, now it might work. Yeah, it is. Okay, so which of the following is not true? This is the last question, by the way. I believe. Reward is a function just of the state, while the value is a function of the state and policy. Reward is about the present, value is about the future. Reward is given as input, value is computed. Value of a state is proportional to its reward. If you understand this question, you started to have a feel for MDPs. And again, whenever you see these kinds of questions, you should feel good because but for the grace of God, this would have been on the exam. And I'm getting my loopiness out by doing it here as against on the exam. But I think it's actually useful to understand it instead of just saying you're wrong. Obviously I thought about it more than you did. So, okay, so let's see how many people have, how much have we done forward. Okay? In this case, actually, all answers are very interesting to discuss. Although there is an actual answer, but okay, I'm going forward. Okay. Let's talk about this. Okay, since this is the last question, as I said. So those of you who thought this was wrong, that is, reward is a function just of the state, while the value is a function of state and policy. Some people thought that was not true, right? 28% of you thought that's not true. Would somebody explain why? Yes.
I just was confused with the last part of that because it said state and policy, but doesn't policy subsume state?
No.
It
doesn't.
Not at all. Policy is a state action mapping for every possible state in the model. State is just the current state I am in. Okay, so in fact, anybody else has an answer to this? Yes.
I was thinking that it's important to know how I got there, but now I realize that not really, because the reward is just after I'm getting to that stage, not how I got there, doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
So reward, basically you just get it in that state, okay? And value depends on not just the state, but the policy, okay? That's why, do you remember, we write V pi of S. So in essence, whenever you do like this, it's really V pi S. But you want to, then the other one we did is V star S. V star S is nothing but V of pi star S. Star being the optimal. So value very much depends on the policy. And this is a deep, deep, deep point. Okay? What you get out of a state depends on what you do from that state. If you get into the, I mean, this is the thing that I find this very fascinating, because people say, hey, I did this, I got into the college, how come things aren't happening to me? Getting into the college, you'll get the reward of being in the college, which is probably like happy hours in the evening or something. But then everybody says college is so good. Why are they saying it's so good? Because they did a certain policy starting from the college, which didn't involve getting drunk every night. And they actually have jobs. And saying, I'll just be in this state and react whatever I feel like as my action, and why am I not getting the kind of value other people are getting, is a silly question. You have a decision to make. Now, it's true that if you are not in the college, you don't get the value of the college. But it's also true that you can get to the college and not get anything. And the variation that I had, I think in some of the things that, this thing is like, long back, I went to, a place called Tiger Hill in close to Darjeeling in the foothills of Himalayas, and early in the morning. It's like the place to go. So I went running there, and then early in the morning, and then basically I found at some point of time the sun came up, and I was looking at the sun, and I went, what bozos? Why did I wake up to come and see the sun? Okay. Then I found that other people are looking the other side. So then I too looked at the other side. And there was the beautiful, beautiful Kanchenjunga range. So I got to Tiger Hill. If all I did was look at the sun, I would have come back and said, Tiger Hill too has sun. Right? But you have to do the optimal action after reaching the state. Notice that I could have been in Darjeeling, I could have been in rest of India, and I cannot see the Kanchenjunga range. Because those states don't even have access. There are no actions I can do, such as craning my neck and seeing if there are Himalayas. Getting to Tiger Hill mattered, but I could still screw up. Do you understand what I'm saying? Getting to college mattered, but you guys still can screw up. Taking this course mattered. Okay. Next one is reward is about the present, value is about the future. Some people thought that was the false statement. Anybody? Oh yeah, yes.
I was thinking that you kind of have to, like, even for the heuristic, you still have to know, like the cost to get to where you are, and to help calculate where you're going. So I thought
No, so all this is saying is the reward of a state is just about present, current state, the current time.
But
Okay?
the value part says it's
The value is, as this discussion showed, really value of a state is the maximum you can get out of that state by behaving in the optimal way from that state. You don't get value on a platter just for showing up. You get reward on a platter just for showing up. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's the big difference between value and reward. And we compute value. Reward is just given. Okay, it's as part of the specification. But that's what the third one is saying. Reward is given as input and value is computed. And the last one, D. Value of a state is proportional to its reward. Hey, wait, did this thing change as I was talking? Okay, so you guys are, somewhat of questionable judgment. So this thing is saying value of a state is proportional to its reward. So today, you have two states after this class to get into. State 1, go to the bar, get drunk. State 2, go to your dorm room and work on the project. Which one will give you more reward? And I'm sure you can suck up to me and say, doing work on the project. Okay. But clearly, don't get drunk, at least having candies or something seems like a more rewarding state. But value is very different. In fact, the currently high reward states may have low value. This is what your mother's fathers told you and you made fun of them. And I'm telling you in computer science terms. Do you understand what I'm saying? I can basically, there are things I can do. For example, taking selfies standing like this on the Grand Canyon abyss. Highly rewarding, because remember, right after that, you can put it on the Instagram and everyone will say, my God, that guy fell through. You don't do it because the value of that state is mostly negative. The reward is high, the value is very bad. Okay? Value is not proportional to the reward. You hope that the value is proportional to the reward. If you want to make an agent behave optimally when the agent is a bozo agent and only looks for immediate reward, my favorite example is, how do you make Homer Simpson go to a library? You put a lot of donuts all the way to the library. Right? And then he will just basically go through this sequence of high reward states and somehow he'll get to the library and then maybe get something out of it. So that, by the way, is called, that idea is called reward shaping. You reward shape. So in general, in real world, reward value is not at all proportional to the reward. But if you want to make your agent's life easy, you shape their rewards such that even if they are picking actions based only on the reward, they're more likely than not to do the right thing. Okay, so for example, if I want to do reward shaping, I won't, for example, keep my stove on or keep a gun with beautiful rainbow, pictures on it and keep the kid there. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because I could say, come on, you should have thought about it. Just because there are rainbow pictures on the gun, you know that if you